This is Strix Halo, the 16-core Zen 5 flagship laptop APU that you can currently buy right now in 2025. And this is an early diagram from a larger overview of Grimlock Halo, the Zen 7 flagship APU that you might be able to buy as early as 2028, which at a minimum, server Zen 7 will easily launch by mid-2028, and then laptop should launch in some form by the end of that same year. And desktop? Well, actually, as I'm about to get to, I think desktop could manage to launch in 2028 as well, as by then, Zen 6 will have already laid most of the groundwork, and it should be an easier transition than what we're seeing so far with Zen 5 to Zen 6. But anyways, this Halo APU here, yeah, as you can see, it has up to 8 classic cores and 12 C cores on its I/O die, so 20 cores just built in as standard. But then you can still add chiplets like you can right now with Strix Halo, and that means you can add 2 more 8-core Silver King CCDs for a total of 36 cores in this APU. But anyways, I'm sure many of you are already typing in all caps in the comments right now, but Tom, you said that Zen 7 has 16-core chiplets. Did you lie? No, I didn't lie. Zen 7 does have 16-core chiplets for its flagship. But AMD does still want to have reasonably priced budget 8-core offerings in the Zen 7 desktop lineup and laptop lineup as well. And so, well, yeah, it's time. It's time for me to divulge everything that I know about Zen 7 that I've been holding close to my chest for months now, including its, in my opinion, aggressive release cadence right after Zen 6. But first, an ad from a sponsor. This piece of content is brought to you by Basis and their PicoGo AF21 3-in-1 wireless charger and AM61 Qi 2.2 magnetic charger. The latter, the AM61, is a power bank for the serious tech user who craves versatility and hates carrying extra cables that can get tangled up in your bag or pocket. You see, it is Qi 2.2 certified 25 fast watt charging that is wireless, meaning that it can wirelessly charge an iPhone 17 Pro from 0 to 51% in just 30 minutes. But in addition to that, yes, it has a 45-watt USB-C port for plugging in a cable, but it also has a built-in USB-C cable that can unlock from place and charge even my Strix Halo laptop. That means you can charge 3 things at once without all the clutter, and that includes powerful devices like laptops. Oh, and it's got safe, smart, and cool charging as well. Unlike other less premium and outdated chargers, this will stay below 104 Fahrenheit and operates 5 to 7 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than previous Qi 2 models due to its graphene cooling layer and NTC chip for monitoring real-time temperature adjustments. Oh, and that first product I mentioned, the AF21, if you're fully invested in the Apple ecosystem, this is an accessory that will simplify your life with its built-in wireless iPhone and fold-out Apple Watch charger and included AirPod wireless charger as well. It's also Qi 2.2, just like the other one. It's compatible with all iPhones that are iPhone 12 and onwards, and it can charge an iPhone 16 Pro Max to 50% in 30 minutes, while it simultaneously charges your Apple S10 from 0 to 62% simultaneously in the same amount of time. Plus, it's compact and travel-friendly as well. So if you are interested in either of these products and you want to support Moore's Law is Dead, make sure to click the links below and follow the directions to get the best pricing available when you see this. Again, even just clicking on those links helps the channel a ton, and using any offer codes or special links to actually get the product helps the channel even more. So support Moore's Law is Dead by checking out Basis and their PicoGo chargers today. All right, so let's not waste any time here with this Zen 7 codenamed Grimlock leak in November of 2025. The only disclaimer I will say up front is that this isn't going to be a trust me bro leak. This came from, despite what the haters accuse me of all the time, a multitude of sources at AMD and places, or I should say partners of AMD. And while I can't show you all of the documents that I have access to for obvious reasons to protect my contacts, I have been given the okay to show you a fair bit of it. So you will see snippets, even sometimes fairly large snippets of the documents that or some of the ones that I pulled from for this information. So pay attention. You will see pop-ups backing up what I say. I want to establish credibility here as often as I can. All right. Anyways, though, Prometheus, which is the code name for the Zen 7 Classic Core, actually already leaked by me, I believe, a year ago or over a year ago. This is going to be used across EPYC laptop and desktop using the TSMC A14 node. Now, could there be some A16 or 2 nanometer or some other foundry node that's used for budget versions of Zen 7? Certainly that could be possible, but I'm just being honest. Every document I've seen, whether it's desktop, budget desktop, laptop, EPYC, they all reference A14. So I think the majority of the Zen 7 products are going to be using the best node that AMD can get, and they will give each core 2 megabytes of L2 and 4 megabytes of L3 per core. FP512, half ace and built-in AI acceleration within the CCDs. I actually stopped short of trying to explain what it does, as I'm not a chip engineer, but the point is I've heard things like it's almost like you don't need an NPU. I've heard some people say Zen 7 basically has an AI engine in each CCD. That makes me call into question if it even needs NPUs for some of their products in the future. But a lot of people say it's not exactly like it has an NPU. So let's just leave it like that. It's going to run AI tasks way, way, way better without using NPUs. And if they have an NPU, of course, then that accelerates it even more. Now, when it comes to IPZ, I would estimate that Zen 7 should achieve a 15 to 25% uplift. Now, this is an estimation, but it is one that was approved by all AMD sources that I ran it by for the IPC range, but I'm going to explain a bit more why I think this is a safe estimate for Zen 7's IPC. First of all, one source at AMD told me that they got an IPC uplift of around 8% over Zen 6 from the new cache design alone. No, this is not the final IPC. This isn't me saying a minimum of 8%. This is me saying without taking into account any of the other improvements in Zen 7 over Zen 6, just the new cache, they would get an 8% uplift. Like if they just put new cache on Zen 6 and die shrunk it, they would get 8% IPC. So when you add everything else together, yeah, it should be much more than that on average. And in fact, I've even seen a document with Spec Int 2017, and it got 15 to 25% more performance than Zen 6, depending on the exact configuration and power constraints. So there you go, 15 to 25% in a real benchmark Spec Int 2017. But then in addition to that, I saw an average of non-gaming apps. I won't say all of them. One of them was one of the Cinebenches, so I'll admit that. And I got a 16 to 20% average performance uplift per core from Zen 6 to Zen 7. And so look at all of this. You've got at least 8% just from the cache alone, 15 to 25% in Spec Int, 16 to 20% on average from a bunch of other apps. Yeah, I think 15 to 25% IPC uplift from Zen 6 to Zen 7 is a safe bet. Another thing here, I just wanted to throw this here in the slide. An AMD source told me that Zen 7 will have new ISA instructions to support quantization format conversions as well as optimizations for parallel data preparation when interacting with MI accelerators. Also, 4 times improvement in FP8 and 2 times in Int8 per cycle. Again, I'm not going to dwell on this. Most of the people that watch my channel are gamers. But this tells you this is a fundamental architectural upgrade over Zen 6. It's not Zen 6 Plus. Now, before, again, I get to the stuff gamers care about, let me just set the stage with Zen 7 Steamboat. Now, I've already talked about this, showed some diagrams of this in previous leaks, but now I can say that the codename was Steamboat, and EPYC will go up to 8 times 33 core chiplets for 264 cores total, with 7 or 8 megabytes of L3 per core. Now, initially I said 7 megabytes. From what I've heard, this EPYC configuration might switch to 8 megabytes. And this isn't Vcache. This has a massive L3 die chiplet that is different from Vcache, but still provides all of the L3 on a separate chiplet, meaning no L3 on the cores themselves, so that AMD can pack in more cores in a horizontal layer and then add another layer of cache. And, well, that gives them up to 1.8 or 2.1 gigabytes of L3 in this EPYC configuration. Again, we're mostly going to talk about the products gamers and laptop buyers care about, but I do think it's always worth putting into perspective how insane the EPYC side of the equation is getting every generation. Anyways, here's what you care about. Grimlock Ridge. Yes, it is coming to AM5. You will not need a new motherboard to get this, at least if you already have a Zen 4 or Zen 5 or soon Zen 6 system. And it will share the I/O die that Zen 6 uses. Now, I'm not going to say the node because I'm still not 100% sure. I do think it is most likely 6 nanometer, though, as that's what I've seen most documents call out to save money. But I do know that they also played around with a more advanced, with more features built in, like 4 nanometer and 3 nanometer design. So the point is, whatever Zen 6 I/O dies, whatever it can use, Zen 7 can use as well on AM5. Now, there is a 98 millimeter squared Silverton chiplet, and that's actually, I believe, the largest chiplet on desktop AMD's ever made. For reference, Zen 6 will have 75mm squared 2nm chiplets. This is a 98mm squared 1.4 nanometer chiplet, so it's a lot of performance. It's 16 Zen 7 cores with 32 megabytes of L2 and 64 megabytes of L3 on die. A massive amount of cache on die, but AMD wasn't done. They also said, why don't we have 10 megabyte slices per core in the V-cache layer for 160 megabytes of L3 that you can add for a total of 224 megabytes of L3 per CCD. And there will be some EPYC models that use this. And yeah, that sounds really expensive, doesn't it? Don't worry. AMD's also going to be making a 56mm squared Silver King chiplet that is 8 cores with the same cache ratio, but no support for V-cache. And I can see on diagrams it is specifically shared with Grimlock Point and Grimlock Halo laptop APUs. And what that would tell me is this 98mm squared super duper expensive variant with tons of cache, that's the one that's meant for higher TDP models on desktop, Threadripper, EPYC, and I would expect that one to probably target around 7 gigahertz, like I've been told Zen 6 is targeting as well. Now, I can't tell you what Silver King will be able to achieve. Maybe it'll hit 7 gigahertz, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if this one targets a bit lower clock speeds and lower voltages, so that it is more efficient for laptop. And then what they do is they take the less efficient yields of this tiny 8-core and they use that for budget desktop. From a business perspective, that makes a ton of sense. That should allow them to give you a $300 8-core, maybe even less if they want to, while still scaling AM5 to, Threadripper performance levels, as I'll explain later. And just like Zen 6 desktop, Zen 7, of course, can use 2-core chiplets. Just spelling it out for you because I think this is fun. Yes, that means 2 16 cores gets you to 32 cores with 448 megabytes of L3 cache, should they choose to give you V cache on both of the chiplets like they will soon with Zen 5. And by the way, that V cache is manufactured on TSMC N4P. It is not using the node that the previous generations were using. Unfortunately, though, I have to say, the documents clearly say that there is no too high V-cache available. For those who don't know, I was told by sources and even saw in some documents a proposal to have multiple layers of V-cache. It seems like they're not doing that with Zen 7. If they're not doing that with Zen 7, I'm even more sure that I do not believe they are doing that with Zen 6. Now, I don't know if anyone cares who needs more than 448 megabytes of cache, but, it is worth pointing that out as well. So maybe Zen 8 will do that, but at least for the next few years, no. 1 layer of V-cache remains the idea. All right. Now, this is an estimate here. That's why it's in white text. But I would estimate that 15 to 30% more performance is what you should expect in the single threading uplift from Zen 6 to Zen 7. 30%, I know that's above the IPC, but I'm not sure yet if they'll be able to clock it higher, so let's just leave it there. 15 to 30% higher single threading. And then for multi-threading, a whopping 50 to 67% uplift in multi-threading over Zen 6. And that's because you get that, 15 to 25% IPC increase, but then like a 33% increase in cores. It's another massive uplift, guys. And yes, I want to spell this out for you all. When you consider the massive performance uplift Zen 6 will bring over Zen 5, and then multiply that by Zen 7, at a minimum, I would expect Zen 7 to be 50% faster in single threading and over 150% faster in multi-threading than Zen 5. I just think it's worth pointing all of that out. I could actually see it being more. Like, I could potentially see Zen 7 getting to like triple the multi-threading of Zen 5. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at that to be safe. And that means that, yeah, anyone who was worried that they wouldn't have a worthwhile upgrade from Zen 4, you will. Zen 4 to Zen 7 will be much larger than Zen 1 to Zen 3. By the way, another point. One document showed a 20% geo-mean performance uplift from Zen 7 to Zen 7 X3D. And this was in non-gaming apps. See, that's very interesting because I've seen similar claims, not this big, but similar claims where non-gaming apps get large performance boosts with Nova Lake with their large cache BLLC offering. So moving forward more and more, the Vcache is not just for gaming, everybody. It's also going to raise your multi-threading, your non-gaming app performance as well. And keep that in mind, right? If Zen 7, let's say, is 25 to 50% faster, whatever it ends up being, than Zen 6, you can add probably another 20% on top of that for the Vcache model over the standard Zen 6. So a lot more performance in that hypothetical 11970 X3D2 model that AMD could launch in a few years. Now, let's get through the laptop stuff. Grimlock Point. Or Grimlock 1. Yep, it can use TSMC A14 CCD chiplets, and it has an I/O die. On the monolithic I/O die that does not require any extra chiplets to work, it has 4 Zen 7 Classic and 8 Zen 7C cores for a total of 12 cores before LP cores. Now, I say before LP cores because I don't know how many low power cores this has. I would guess 2, maybe 4, but the documents don't call it out. So for now, let's just say 12 cores at least. But then, of course, you'll also be able to add an 8-core Silver King chiplet for a total of 20 non-LP cores. This is interesting to me because they're not deciding to let you add a 16-core to it. Instead, like I said, an optimized 8-core. But that should still have the same big core, non-LP core count, right, as Medusa, which I believe, yeah, goes from 8 plus 12. So it's interesting they're sticking with 20 in a different way of getting there. And then here's a few benchmarks I want to throw at you. And this was all in some documents I saw. It should. Grimlock over Medusa APUs should offer 13 to 17% faster performance per core at 22 watts per core, 20 to 25% if the cores are using each 12 watts, 26 to 32% if they're at 7, and 30 to 36% faster cores if each core is constrained to only 3 watts, which does not sound like a lot. But keep in mind, if you have 12 cores, right, and each core is using 3 watts, that's a 36-watt APU. So what that tells me is it's not crazy to think that even if Zen 7 Grimlock has the same core counts as Zen 6 Medusa APUs, that in most configurations, most laptops are like 25 to 54 watt TDPs for the CPU. I think you're going to be getting at least a 30% boost a lot of the time, meaning that Zen 7 is a massive efficiency boost over Zen 6, let alone over Zen 5. I think we could be looking at Zen 7 APUs having double the efficiency of Zen 5 ones that are out right now. It's just crazy. But unfortunately, I do not have any info on Grimlock Point's integrated graphics. Everything I have is about the CPU core, so that'll have to wait for another leak. Make sure you are subscribed. But I can confirm that there are at least 4 Grimlock Point products that I've seen referenced. I don't know their specs. I'm sure one of them is analogous to Kraken, and, one of them is analogous to like Mendocino or Bumblebee, like some budget variants. But what I will say is that I have seen a Grimlock 2, 3, and 4 mentioned. And so there will be other APUs. And I actually did see in one document that Grimlock 1 is probably the only one that can add a CCD. But it's not the only APU that can add a CCD chiplet, because of course there would be Grimlock Halo. Now, the monolithic I/O die for Grimlock Halo has 8 Zen 7 Classic and 12 Zen 7C cores for 20 cores total before LP cores, or before you add a single chiplet to it, which I think is just incredible. That means that this can be more compact than Strix Halo, while still having more cores than Strix Halo, 20 cores total. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they could fit that thing on AM5, but we'll have to wait to see about that. And it, of course, though, can still add 2 optional 8-core Silver King chiplets for a total of 36 cores, meaning that in a few years from now, or maybe 4, depending on when this comes out, right now the Halo chips are 16 cores. AMD will have at least 36 cores. So, wow, are they not standing still? They are innovating every year here, and they're really going for the jugular and laptop at Intel, I think, over the next 2 generations. Finally, I have a document calling out BTO for September, October 2027. What that means to me is that EPYC Zen 7 should launch by the first half of 2028, and I think the full product family may even launch by the end of 2028 as well. All right, so there's the information. Now, what else do I have to say? Well, first, let me address the question of when these products will launch. So yeah, as far as I can tell, despite 2028 sounding really aggressive, it's not as aggressive as you might think it is when you think about it. Like, don't forget that AMD has already publicly confirmed that Zen 6 EPYC Venice, so the server variant of Zen 6, is launching less than a year from now already in 2026. AMD prioritizes server first over the last few generations. Thus, if Zen 7 EPYC were to launch in early 2028, that'd be at least a year and a half after server Zen 6, and possibly a full 2 years, which is a standard cadence. So this is totally believable. Now, when it comes to laptop and desktop release dates, from a manufacturing perspective, Zen 6 is much like Zen 2 it's a bigger overhaul. It's like laying the groundwork for an entirely new way of organizing the chiplets. And so if you think about Zen 7, at least on desktop, using the same I/O dies as Zen 6, they just have to design these CCDs and throw them on there. And so it's going to be a lot like, I think, Zen 2 to Zen 3, where Zen 3 followed up quicker than people expected after Zen 2, despite being a massive performance boost. And so, yeah, I expect server Zen 7 to launch in the first half of 2028. And then I think laptop and even desktop might launch before the end of that year, hopefully for back to school. And that would place Grimlock 1.5 years after desktop Zen 6, if Zen 6 does indeed get some of the delays that I'm worried about, which let me address that as well. On the note of Zen 6 getting delayed, I already put out a whole video breaking down why it's likely to be delayed a little and why the 9950 X3D 2 is likely suddenly arriving as a stopgap because it's being delayed. Watch that video now if you want the full scoop on what's going on with Zen 6's release date, because I don't want to repeat myself here for those who already watched it. However, I will add on in this video that over the past week, I've only been told more whispers, if you will, that further suggest to me Zen 6 desktop is probably going to slip from Q4 2026 to Q1 or 2 2027. Again, I'm not 100% sure. It's frustrating how many people are like, yeah, there's some issues and might get delayed, and yet no one has a single document saying that, probably for obvious reasons because of leaks, but I would say that Zen 6 still might slip a little bit. All right, so after confirming that some more, two more things. First of all, yes, I think Zen 7's flagship will cost more than Zen 6. I haven't talked about cost yet. Let me talk about it now. Zen 7 is going to cost a lot more than Zen 5 did. Full stop. There's no way around it. I've been a little wishy-washy on what Zen 6 might cost. No wishy-washiness here with Zen 7. And let me break it all down. First of all, the chiplets are bigger than the current 9950X, use a way more expensive node, TSMC 1.4 nanometer instead of TSMC 4 nanometer. And although the IO die might be 6 nanometer and so save on some cost, either way here, that means that we're talking about 196 millimeters squared in total of 1.4 nanometer silicon. And then when you add the IO die, that gets you to 351 millimeters squared of silicon before you even add the V-cache, meaning that you'll be able to compare whatever they call it, the 11970 X3D2, the amount of silicon it will use, to Strix Halo. That's a lot of silicon, a lot of expensive silicon. I don't see AMD charging less than $999 for a 32 core with 448 megabytes of L3. Full stop. I don't see it. I do think the flagship will cost more than previous gen flagships. However, that doesn't mean value will be worse. You see, don't forget that this flagship will be at least 50% faster in single threading and at least 150% faster in multi-threading compared to the 9950X. And in fact, I could see it if you get a home run with Zen 6 and Zen 7 in execution, doubling single threading and tripling or more multi-threading. And if that does happen, look, yes, the bad news is the most expensive Zen 7 chip on desktop will cost more than the most expensive Zen 5 chip on desktop. But the good news is that if you had an 11970 X3D2 that cost 50% more than the 9950 X3D2, it still might be 2 to 3 times faster. So that's going to still be like double the price to performance. Value is going to improve, even if the top Zen 7 will be a lot more expensive than the top Zen 5. And if we go down the stack, it gets even better in this comparison, right? Like, let's say AMD wants to charge $699 for a single CCD 16 core with Vcache. Let's call it the 11950 X3D and compare that to the 9950 X3D. That's still the same MSRP as the 9950 X3D, and yet I believe this thing will be like what? Again, 50% faster in gaming. I mean, it will probably get you to at least 50% faster in multi-threading or more. So 3 years later, from when the 9950 X3D launched, same price, and you will be getting probably 50% better price performance, or at least more than 30% better price performance. Again, it's going to cost more, but the performance is going to be so much higher that even if they charged $800, it will be better value. And then don't forget the Silver King 8-core CCDs either. I bet they could sell those tiny 8-core models with a 6 nanometer IO die probably for $299, giving you an 8-core 11600X, and that thing would beat, truly, I think an 8-core Zen 7 11600X would beat a 9900 X3D 12 core in multi-threading and gaming for half the MSRP. Again, are costs going up at the top of the stack? Yes, but the value is going to be substantially better. And just remember, though, all those are hypotheticals to illustrate a point. You don't want to quote me on exactly how strong the 11600X will be, but I think that's probably a safe ballpark and gives you an idea of why I think you should still be very excited for Zen 7, even if the very tippy top model will be very expensive. I mean, come on, guys. 32 cores with like triple the multi-threading of a 9950X for the flagship. That might have the multi-threading performance of a 96-core Zen 5 Threadripper. Not saying it will, but it might. If they bring HEDT flagship performance to AM5, yeah, I'd expect $1,000 for that at least. All right, which that gets me to my final point then here. Zen 7 doesn't look any less ambitious to me than Zen 6. It also looks like a huge uplift gen over gen. And I mean, to be fair, Zen 6 still might be bigger. You know, if Zen 6 does get delayed, still uses the N2X node. Again, check out that last video that explains all that. I suppose I would expect Zen 6 to be a bigger leap than Zen 7. But I would still, at this point, I think Zen 7 is going to be a vastly higher leap than Zen 5 and a larger leap than Zen 4 or Zen 3. And so it's kind of like the way I think of Zen 6 and Zen 7 is how you might think of Zen 2 and Zen 3. Zen 2 was the bigger deal than Zen 3. It like doubled core counts and had a massive IPC increase, went to this new chiplet design. But Zen 3 is regarded as pretty much just as big of a deal. That's what Zen 6 and Zen 7 are going to be. Two massive haymakers. And so just remember, when you see Nova Lake leaks and you see what Intel's planning for next year, you better hope for competition's sake that Nova Lake can keep up with Zen 6 substantially, because if it loses to Zen 6 by even 10%, like a year and a half later, AMD is going to have a similar sized haymaker coming with Zen 7, and I think Intel may be even farther behind than they are now, and I don't want that to happen. Now, don't get me wrong, Razer Lake, the follow-up to Nova Lake, is sounding like a pretty good uplift. You'll see my details I know about that in an upcoming video. Again, make sure you're subscribed, but you know, let's put it this way. I want Nova Lake to be good because I want the 11600X to be an 8-core and not a 6-core. But as always, that's ultimately up to Intel and if they can keep up with AMD, because AMD isn't going to make it easy for them to do that. All right, well, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure that you hit the like button, that you use your hype points, your precious hype points to hype up the video as well, that you share it, and that you are subscribed to the Moore's Law is Dead YouTube channel. There's a lot more stuff coming. I actually wasn't even sure when I was going to do this leak. I've had this information for months now, but I felt it was about time where someone might scoop me on my information. And so this is just one of a pile of subjects I've been thinking of talking about. You're not going to want to miss them. And also consider joining the Moore's Law is Dead Patreon. If you do, at even the lowest tier, you'll be able to ask us questions and get access to a roster of die shrinks. By the way, the next guest is Ancient Gameplays. We will be talking about what's going on with long-term RDNA 2 support, FSR4 and RDNA 3, and all of the latest gaming hardware news. You'll be able to ask him some questions at even the $1 tier. And higher tiers, of course, get access to hundreds of die shrink episodes. Some of those are like over 1 hour video interviews with guests. There are tons of great content there that I feel would be too niche for YouTube, but I know the biggest fans would enjoy. And also you get access to a Patreon, early ad-free Broken Silk, kind of the proper tiers. There's a ton of content there for you, and we really cannot do this. I say we, right? Because it's me, Gerard doing a lot of the editing for the podcast, Carbon Cry helping with putting together notes for podcasts, and also John Philippe, who renders a lot of these products at a time for you. By the way, I got some more in the oven coming. That costs money to pay him to make them. So please consider supporting us if you want to support journalism that gets you access to information early so you can make informed purchasing decisions. But at a minimum, let me say this, as always. If you made it this far into a video this long, thank you for watching.